"What wine will your Royal Highness take?" asked old Hans in his soothing tones when the soup was served. "Sherry," was Prince Eugen's curt order. "And Romanée Conti afterwards?" said Hans. Aribert looked up quickly. "No, not tonight. I'll try Sillery tonight," said Prince Eugen. "I think I'll have Romanée Conti, Hans, after all," he said. "It suits me better than champagne." The famous and unsurpassable Burgundy was served with the roast. Old Hans brought it tenderly in its wicker cradle, inserted the corkscrew with mathematical precision, and drew the cork, which he offered for his master's inspection. Eugen nodded, and told him to put it down. Aribert watched with intense interest. He could not for an instant believe that Hans was not the very soul of fidelity, and yet, despite himself, Racksole's words had caused him a certain uneasiness. At that moment Prince Eugen murmured across the table: "Aribert, I withdraw my promise. Observe that, I withdraw it." Aribert shook his head emphatically, without removing his gaze from Hans. The white haired servant perfunctorily dusted his napkin round the neck of the bottle of Romanée Conti, and poured out a glass. Aribert trembled from head to foot. Eugen took up the glass and held it to the light. "Don't drink it," said Aribert very quietly. "It is poisoned." "Poisoned!" exclaimed Prince Eugen. "Poisoned, sire!" exclaimed old Hans, with an air of profound amazement and concern, and he seized the glass. "Impossible, sire. I myself opened the bottle. No one else has touched it, and the cork was perfect." "I tell you it is poisoned," Aribert repeated. "Your Highness will pardon an old man," said Hans, "but to say that this wine is poison is to say that I am a murderer. I will prove to you that it is not poisoned. I will drink it." And he raised the glass to his trembling lips. In that moment Aribert saw that old Hans, at any rate, was not an accomplice of Jules. Springing up from his seat, he knocked the glass from the aged servitor's hands, and the fragments of it fell with a light tinkling crash partly on the table and partly on the floor. The Prince and the servant gazed at one another in a distressing and terrible silence. There was a slight noise, and Aribert looked aside. He saw that Eugen's body had slipped forward limply over the left arm of his chair. The Prince's arms hung straight and lifeless. His eyes were closed. He was unconscious. "Hans," murmured Aribert. "Hans, what is this?" End of chapter 23 and 24.